Everybody, welcome to today's stream. I'm Tim from Ledger, and today I'm going to be doing a device setup and onboarding for the Nano S Plus. If you came here to instead get your questions answered, I see there's not too many viewers right now, but if more people show up and if you do want to just get your questions answered, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we will have a moderator that will go through and help and address those. But for me, I'm going to be going through the setup process on this device. And at the end, once I get done with that, then I will be able to wrap around and address some of your guys' questions directly and see what kind of stuff has been going on in the chat. So without further ado, I'll just go ahead and get started on this device setup. So if you did come here to see how to set up a device and learn a little bit more about how it functions, you've definitely come to the right place. All right, great. Let's get started. Okay, pretty good. Oh, let me give my little disclaimer here real quick, because you might be wondering why this is a clearly previously unboxed Nano. So we used to unbox a new Nano every time, but then after a while we started getting this pile and stack of unused Nanos that we had nothing to do with. So instead of doing that, we now reassemble the box and just reset up the same devices every week just to save on materials. So that's why there is no plastic cover on this box, but everything inside the box is still exactly the same for the most part, and I'll show you in a minute what's going to be different. But for all intents and purposes, this is a brand new device, and the setup process for you unwrapping your own, if you're following along, will be exactly the same. So now, without further ado, we can get started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and slide off this outer material. Right here, this cover, put it to the side, open up the box. So inside the box, you've got your Nano S Plus. If you had a Nano X, there would be the Nano X inside the box, and likewise the Nano S, although I don't know how many Nano S's are still floating around that are unboxed, but if you have one and you're setting it up, it'll look something like this. A little bit different, but something like this. So inside these boxes, you have your, like I said, your device itself. I'll go ahead and put that to the side. And you also have these secret recovery sheets. And these secret recovery sheets are something that we provide to users inside the box to be able to write down their 24-word recovery phrase in a way that they can then keep it stored offline in just a convenient sheet. This recovery box or recovery phrase packet is empty because we've used all the recovery sheets and we're currently out of recovery sheets for the Nano S Plus here in our office. But luckily we have a stack of the other recovery sheets for the Nano X and Nano S. These are the ones that those Nanos came with. And it's really not any different. It looks different. It doesn't fold, but it's just a piece of paper with some numbers on it. So even if you don't have recovery sheets, it's perfectly okay to write it down on any piece of paper or that available to you. So today I'm going to be using this recovery sheet in conjunction with this. However, the setup process still will not differ. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set this to the side. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail about what the recovery phrase is and what the recovery sheets and how they can help keep your assets offline, and perhaps some other alternatives if you determine that paper is a little bit too flimsy to be storing, the master key to all your crypto. So let's go ahead and continue unboxing. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull off this mold right here. And then underneath the mold, we have this pink envelope, which has the Start Your Crypto Journey. It's got some correspondence. It's got some regulatory information. It's got some stickers. It's basically just a little packet to help you get started. We are going to go ahead and put that to the side for now. And then underneath that, you will have your box that has your USB-C to USB-A USB cable. You can see it right there. I already have this one set up right here that I'm going to be using to power on the Nano. So I will go ahead and just slip this right back into the box, keep it all in the same place. Okay, set this in. I'm going to set the box real quick and put it off the side. Okay, so now we have a Nano. We have a secret recovery sheet. So with the Nano, it is important to note that, and I touched on it a little bit, but so basically the Nano that we're using, I'd mentioned that it was already previously used in the past. However, it has been factory reset, so it's gonna power on to the exact same screen that any Nano S Plus would power onto fresh out of the box. So we power it on. And then it says, welcome to Nano S Plus. Press the right button to continue. So the reason that it's kind of cool to demonstrate this on camera is that if you have a friend or someone that has an old Nano, or you come into one, you find one on a secondary market and you're wondering if it's safe to use, well, as long as when you plug it in, it doesn't ask you for a pin, like it's not already set up. And if that were the case, you can enter the wrong pin 3 times and factory reset it and then use it. But we're going to be performing, after we set up this device, we're going to be performing here in Ledger Live what's known as the genuineness check. And that is a fail-safe that we have in place where when you plug in your Nano after you connect to Ledger Live, it's going to scan your software, it's going to scan your device, it's going to make sure it hasn't been tampered with and that there's nothing unexpected going on with it. And if there is something unexpected going on with it, even a little thing, then it's going to automatically fail the genuineness check and you will not be able to connect your Nano to Ledger Live. You will not be able to create accounts. You won't be able to do anything that can lead to you losing funds if your Nano's been tampered with. And so we're going to get to that here in a minute. But one other thing that's kind of cool is you see here in Ledger Live, I have it pulled up and I have the Nano plugged in, and it's going to tell me to navigate to the right, press both buttons to continue, and it's inevitably going to tell me to open up Ledger Live to start. But you actually don't need to have a Nano plugged into a computer or connected to the internet at all to set it up. You can take a Nano, you can add power to it from a wall outlet or a battery pack, or whatever power source that you have available that is not connected to the internet. And you can fully set up your device. You can generate your 24-word recovery phrase, which is your master private key. More on that here in a minute. And you can set your PIN and you can get it all set up and ready to go completely offline. That way, if there's any inkling of doubt in your mind about like, well, okay, I do trust these devices will protect my recovery phrase, but why do I have to connect it to my computer to set it up? And so technically you don't have to. It's just for most people more convenient to just plug it into their computer to set it up. But it's a cool option for those of you who may not want to do that. All right, so to navigate on the device, after you plug it in, you see there are these 2 buttons up on the top, left and right. The left button will be, the one closest to the power port. So pressing the left button will go to the left, pressing the right button will go to the right, and then pressing both buttons simultaneously will make a selection. And it's important to not hold down both buttons when you're making a selection. It's important to just quickly tap both buttons. So if I were to hold down both buttons right here, you can see like nothing's happening at this point. It's just not letting me go. And then, well, it did when I release it, but yeah, I'll show you here in a minute. So yeah, actually, I'm gonna have to show you after we get it set up. But holding both buttons down is how you get to the control center. And so a common issue that users have that are new to these devices is, it'll say press both buttons to make the selection, and they'll hold the buttons down, and then it'll just go to the control center, and they'll only have the option to like power off the device and go to the settings, but they won't be able to make that selection they wanted to make. So just a quick reminder, just quick tap of the button. All right, so you can see here that we have 2 options. We can set it up as a new device, which will generate a brand new 24-word recovery phrase for us. Or if you already have a Nano, or if you already have a recovery phrase that you wanted to import into your Nano to secure with your Nano, you can choose the option to restore from recovery phrase. Now keep in mind, if it is a recovery phrase that has ever been exposed to the internet, like for instance, one common question that we get from users is like, hey, I got this MetaMask account. I've got the 12-word recovery phrase from it. Can I just import that into my Nano and just have my accounts, in Ledger Live and manage it with my Nano that way? And the answer is yes, you can technically do that. Although there may be unexpected issues that lead to like account creation issues, which we don't need to get into in this video. That's kind of more of an advanced topic. However, assuming everything is good, it will accept a 12-word recovery phrase. You can choose a 12-word recovery phrase to import into your Nano. But if that recovery phrase was previously stored in your browser app folder for instance, MetaMask or Rabby or some other software wallet, then that recovery phrase will inherently be not as secure as one that's generated offline. And so if your computer were to get some malware or a virus, or if it were to get hacked in some other way, then all that information would be very easily accessible to the person who was trying to extract that information from your computer. And so that's why we talk about the importance of keeping your recovery phrase completely offline. And it's also why it's possible to do this completely offline. And that's to reassure users that are setting up a Nano that there's no possible way that this recovery phrase has ever been online. And so on that same note, when you do set up your recovery phrase, and assuming you're doing it offline, you definitely don't want to be you don't want to do anything that could possibly compromise your recovery phrase. So like you don't want to take a picture of it. You don't want to store it in a password manager. You definitely don't want to put it on your computer in any way, shape, or form, or your phone, because then it becomes it's now being stored, this information, on a device that is connected to the internet, which is an attack vector for hackers or malicious actors to try to extract that information from you. So that's kind of my big spiel on keeping recovery phrases safe. And as we go through the process, I'll talk a little bit more about kind of what a recovery phrase is, because it's kind of a mysterious thing at this point. All right, cool. So we're going to set up as a new device, and we are going to generate a brand new 24-word recovery phrase. So the first step after you make that selection is to choose your PIN. Now your PIN, it can be between 4 and 8 digits in length. And your PIN is what you use to unlock your device. It's important to remember that your PIN is not intrinsically linked to your crypto accounts in any way. So when you set up this PIN, you'll never need this PIN for anything other than unlocking your Nano. So if somebody were to get their hands on your recovery phrase and they didn't have your Nano and didn't know your PIN, they would still be able to access your accounts very easily by importing that recovery phrase into another wallet to access those accounts. So definitely set up a good secure PIN. That way people can't steal your Nano and guess it really easily, because you have 3 attempts to enter a PIN into the Nano, like I mentioned earlier, before it factory resets. But if you have a really easy PIN, like the one that I'm about to set up here for test purposes, then you could be in a situation where someone could get lucky and guess the PIN. So you want to make it hard to guess. So I'm going to not follow my own advice right now, and I'm going to just set it to 1, 1, 1, 1, and then I'm going to confirm it. And watch this. So maybe you can see it. There we go. Try to get it. There's a little line underneath the 1 right there. So after I click that, I think I accidentally clicked 1. See how it jumps to the 2, and then I go back to the 1, and then it randomly jumped to the 5. I go back to the 1, then it randomly jumped up here to the 6. I go back to 1, and I confirm it. So that's actually another security feature, kind of a small one, but I think an important one. And this is so that if you are in a public place where other people are around and they can see what you're doing with your Nano, maybe they can't see your screen because you're protecting the screen, but maybe they can possibly count your button clicks. For instance, if it always started all the way at the left, people can count how many and try to determine your PIN. So this just randomizes that so that it's not really possible. It's not feasible for someone to guess what the PIN is by just trying to watch what your finger movements are. Okay, so now we're going to go into the phase where we write down our recovery phrase. Yeah, so this is the only backup to your crypto. It is the master private key to your crypto. So the way it works is these words all come from a common database called the BIP39 word list. And it's a list of 2,048 total possible words that are used to derive seed phrases for pretty much all accounts that are on that standard. And so what it is you get these random 24 words or 12 words or 18 words, depending on the wallet that you're using. We use the 24-word recovery phrase because it's the longest, so it's the most secure. So each one of those words can be converted into a different format, and then it becomes this very, very, very long string of characters in hexadecimal format that make up your master private key. And so it's in word format to be easier for users to manage it and have it and keep track of it, and even in some cases possibly memorize it if there are people out there that can do that. Myself is not one of them. I would never try to memorize my 24-word recovery phrase, but I know people that do and that claim that they can. And so with this 24-word recovery phrase, this is where all of your accounts are derived from. And so it's really the only thing that your Nano has to store inside of its memory in order to be able to derive the same exact accounts every single time. It really is a master private key. In that same vein, if I were to take the recovery phrase from my work Nano and do the restore from recovery phrase and import that recovery phrase into this Nano, this would just become a copy of my master key, and I would be able to access all my same accounts. I'd be able to sign transactions. I'd be able to do everything. So keep that in mind when you're managing your recovery phrase on how easy it is to use that information to access your accounts. And so that's why we stress so much to always keep it offline, to never share it with anybody. And if anybody ever asks you for it for whatever reason, they're 100% trying to scam you. 100%. All right, let's go ahead and generate our secure recovery phrase. So obviously this recovery phrase that I'm generating now is not secure because I'm showing it to you guys and you're going to be able to see all the words. So as a result, I will not actually be loading any crypto into these accounts. That would be irresponsible of me to do on a live stream. So instead, it's just going to be showing you the process. Let me get my fingers in a good way. Although I don't know if you can see that with the camera. It's kind of got a glare, but I'll read it off to you. All right, so the first word is depart. Go ahead and write it down. Second word is check. Third word is utility. Transfer. Gun. Mushroom. Repeat. Slogan. Robust. Term. Logic. Provide. Flower. Let me open up some quick. Perfect. Cool. Word number 14, adapt. Borrow. Garden. Our pen's giving out on me. Mix. And pen's giving out on me. Okay. 18, surround. Not working out very well with this pen. I gotta find a new pen. My apologies. I'll be right back. Okay, I got a new pen. Let's see if this works better. Good pen. All right. Alice. So if you notice on my recovery sheet right here, it's kind of like not the greatest pen that I was using, and maybe some of the words are kind of hard to read. Because I'm not going to be reusing this recovery phrase, I'm not too worried about it. However, if this was going to become the master private key for my true crypto accounts, then I would probably make sure that I had it written down perfectly. Because imagine a scenario where 3, 4, 5 years later, you want to access your crypto accounts and you can't find your Nano. You moved or something in the meantime, and your Nano kind of got lost during the move, but you do have your recovery phrase. and you pull out your recovery phrase sheet and you can't read your own writing, that could become a very serious problem for trying to derive your accounts, trying to regain access to your accounts. You definitely want to make sure you have it written down nice and legibly, nice and neat. All right, almost done here. Get the last couple words. All right. Perfect. We got our 24 words. So at this point, we can press both buttons to continue, or we can scroll back to the left and verify them and make sure we have them written down correctly. Definitely a good idea to do. And then after you do that, it's going to make you confirm your recovery phrase anyway, because it's just that important to make sure that this is written down correctly. So the way it'll work is it'll give you, I believe, 4 random words that one of them could be it. So you just basically have to scroll through and select the right word. So the first one is depart. Next one is check, utility, and so on. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire through this real quick. Okay, cool. So we got all the words in. Your recovery phrase is set. That's good. If at any point I chose a wrong word, it would say, wrong word, try again. And then it would let you try to get the right word again. Like I said, it's not, this part of the process is not necessarily to like add security. It's mostly just to ensure that the user has the correct recovery phrase written down. And that's why you don't have to actually like type in each word one by one to confirm them. You can just find the right word and select. Okay, never share it with anybody. Keep it offline. Follow good practices with that. And then press both buttons to continue. There we go. Device is ready. So this device is now completely set up with a recovery phrase. You see that we are on this screen. This is the dashboard screen. So this is what I was talking about before. When you hold down the buttons instead of quickly pressing them, it's going to bring you to this menu, the control center, where you have settings. So we get a lot of users that are like, hey, yeah, so you know, I'm following the instructions, but every time I press the buttons, it just brings me to this settings menu, and I can only like exit the settings menu or power off the device, and I like, how do I get past this? And that's quick button tap. It's a small thing, but it's, you know, something that trips people up sometimes. So yeah, so now at this point, you would take your recovery phrase here and you would store it in a safe or a lockbox, or, you know, where depending on where you're at, depending on your circumstances and what is the most secure place for you and your individual circumstance, you're going to want to keep it in that place, whether it's like buried in the ground in like a capsule, or it's, you have a crypto steel, like a CryptoTag Zeus or some kind of a steel solution to like back up your seed phrase in. Or perhaps even if you live in a place where you have a bank that you trust, and you want to store it in a safety deposit box, like you know, everyone's situation is different. And so just make your best judgment, but keep in mind that you do not want to store it online. I really can't stress that enough. That's the number one way that our, you know, users experience like unfortunate loss of funds, is like, you know, we'll be going through with them like, oh, you know, what could have happened here? And we look at their accounts and we see that many different accounts from different blockchains were all drained at once. And it's like, well, this had to have been a recovery phrase leak. And the person's like, you know, I have never leaked my recovery phrase. I'm very careful with it. I understand how it works. And then later during the conversation, you know, the person may be like, oh, shoot, you know what? I did take a picture of it when I first set it up. I totally forgot about that. It's here in my gallery. Like, you know, and then they do a virus scan on their phone and they find some malware. Like, so these things happen all the time. So we don't just say it to, you know, to say it. It's something that we have to deal with every day. And so make sure that you definitely keep these things in mind when you're choosing how to store your recovery phrase. You don't want it anywhere where anyone can get to it. All right, sweet. I think I kind of beat that into the ground a little bit. So we can go ahead and just get started here with Ledger Live now that we have our Nano set up. So let's go to the Get Started. We've got a Nano S Plus. We'll go ahead and select that. So if you go to this one right here, set up a new Nano S Plus, this will guide you through everything that we just went through. And it will it'll even ask you questions and prompt you and make sure, you know, it's pretty interactive. It's pretty good. I like to do it myself to show that you don't need Ledger Live to set up the Nano in these onboardings. However, if you're just tuning in or if you feel more comfortable being guided by Ledger Live, select this first option and it will guide you through that entire process. But we already did it. So we are going to scroll down here and say already have a recovery phrase. So this will also be the same thing that you would pick if you let's say you have a Nano, you've been using it for years in your computer, you upgrade your computer, you get a new one, you install Ledger Live, and it's going to open up to this menu when you install it. There's no there's no importing accounts. Like there is technically a way you can do it, but it's pretty technical. You would have to get the JSON file from your previous Ledger Live and then send it to your new computer and then put it in the app data folder. But honestly, it's much easier just to go through the process of re-adding your accounts. Because remember, when you add your accounts into Ledger Live, they come directly from your recovery phrase. So it doesn't matter what computer you're connecting to. It doesn't matter what software you're connecting to. Your Nano, if it's compatible with that wallet software, it'll always derive the same account. So you can add your accounts to as many different versions of Ledger Live as you want without any fear of your crypto being in those, on those computers, in those instances of Ledger Live. Your crypto only ever exists on the blockchain. All right, so we'll go back here. We already have a recovery phrase. We want to connect it. So it's going to bring us right to the genuine check. This is what I was talking about before. This is where it's going to make sure that our Nano is genuine and that it has not been tampered with. So let's check it. Yep, we're going to allow a secure connection with Ledger right here. We're going to press both buttons to allow that. And it's all good. It's a quick check. It's a nice, easy check. It doesn't take long, and you'll know right away if there's an issue. In this case, we're all good. This is a genuine Nano. So we're going to hit continue. And then now we are here. You can go directly to add account, but the best practice for whenever you do set up a new Nano is to immediately go to the My Ledger tab right here. And so from the My Ledger tab, you will be able to check to see if you have any software updates, any firmware updates for your Nano, which we do not. If we did, there would be an orange banner here at the top that said firmware update available, but this Nano is already up to date. But also from this tab, you can see that there's this app catalog where you can install these Nano apps. And now these Nano apps are necessary to be able to interact with blockchains, but it's important to remember that these Nano apps are also not your accounts. Your accounts are only ever derived from your recovery phrase. However, to be able to derive your account using the recovery phrase within the device for a certain blockchain, for instance, for Bitcoin or Ethereum, you need this specific Nano app. That way your Nano knows how to use the information in its memory to derive the correct account on the correct blockchain. So that's all these Nano apps are doing, is it's giving your Nano the tools to interact and communicate with that specific blockchain. So we'll go ahead and just add the Ethereum app real quick. And as you can see, when you install the app right here, it takes up a little bit of space up here in memory. And then we have a new little widget on the screen of the Nano right there, showing that we have the Ethereum app installed. And we can go ahead and install the Bitcoin app too. And so you can install quite a few apps on these things. But inevitably, you will get to a point if you have a whole bunch of accounts from a whole bunch of different blockchains and you have a bunch of these Nano apps installed, then you will reach a point where you run out of space. And it's not as big of an issue with the Nano S Plus and the Nano X because most people don't have, 30 plus different crypto accounts that they deal with on different blockchains. But if you are one of these people and you do have a lot of different accounts, remember that it's perfectly okay to uninstall these Nano apps and to make room for other Nano apps that you want to use. And then it will have no impact on the accounts that you create in Ledger Live. Your accounts will still be there. The only thing is if you wanted to access the account, you would then have to install the applicable Nano app to be able to access that account again. But then you can just uninstall another one. And I bring it up just in case, but we don't have to deal with this very often with the Nano S Plus and the Nano X. It was really only an issue with the Nano S model that only had enough internal memory for like 2, maybe 3 Nano apps before it filled up, and then it was an issue for some users. But for the Nano S Plus and Nano X, you probably won't run into that. All right, cool. So then now we can go ahead and create an account. So let's do it. I'm gonna create a Bitcoin account. I'm gonna add account from this button right here. You can also come up here to the portfolio tab and add an account from here. And then we're gonna go ahead and do that. You can also add an account from the accounts tab after it's not grayed out. And it's grayed out because we don't currently have any accounts. So we'll go ahead and add a Bitcoin account. Open the Bitcoin app so it can communicate. So right now it's synchronizing and it's sending a request to the Nano to say, hey, can you please derive possible wallet addresses based on the information that you have that you're never going to share with me. So remember that your recovery phrase is never shared with Ledger Live. Ledger Live at no point is able to see that information. So it did it. There's actually 4 address types for Bitcoin, but we're just going to add a native SegWit. I'll go ahead and add the account. So now we have a Bitcoin account. And so now from the accounts tab, you'll see there's this purple button right here where you can add an account from here. And it's actually kind of cool because you technically at this point don't even really need to go to the My Ledger tab to install the app that you need. It can just be part of the flow from here. So you can just come up here and go to add account. Let's say I wanted to add a Doge account. Why not? I can hit continue. It's going to immediately note that I don't have the Doge app installed. So it will go through the process of automatically installing the Doge app. Oh, it did it. And it wants me to open the Doge app now. Now it's synchronizing, doing the same thing as it was doing with Bitcoin. We'll go ahead and add the Doge account. And just like that. And now you can see that we have on the screen of our Nano, let me make sure you can see that. We've got the Dogecoin widget, we got the Bitcoin, and we've got Ethereum. So yeah, you can have a whole bunch of apps on there. Yeah, so that's pretty much the whole setup process, adding an account. If you wanted to receive into your account, then you can just click on the account you want to receive funds into and click the receive button. And then you would hit continue. It wants us to open the Bitcoin app so it can synchronize again and derive our wallet address. And then it gives you this wallet address right here. Note that it also shows up on the screen of the Nano. So one thing to remember is that the information that gets displayed on the screen of the Nano, that's information coming directly from the secure element. This is the public wallet address, which is shareable and it is safe to display and share. But this cannot be tampered with. Even if you had a computer that was riddled with viruses and it was doing everything it could to try to access this and try to penetrate it, at no point can the information that shows up on the screen of your Nano be tampered with in any way, shape, or form. And so you can know that this address right here is the actual correct address. Now, where a vulnerability may be present is on your computer itself. And I will tell you before I go into this that this is extremely rare. We don't see a whole lot of what's called clipboard hijackings. And the way that works is that is a virus, a piece of malware that will alter the contents that you when you use the copy paste feature. Like for instance, when I click on here and I copy this, it's gonna copy that address, that information to the clipboard, which is a temporary storage place on your computer where information is temporarily stored to be pasted somewhere else. And you can store a certain amount of information in there. But a clever piece of malware could actually intercept that and put different information in there so that when you go to paste it in on the other end, you actually paste a different wallet address. Now, like I said, this is rare, but we have seen it before. And I will note also that Ledger Live has gotten a lot smarter in recent years. And so if you were to click this button from here and Ledger Live would detect if the information didn't match what was displayed, what you copied, and it would actually alert you that hey, the contents of your clipboard don't match the information that you just copied. So there is that security measure in place, but it's still something to keep in mind. And so for best practice, what I usually do is I will derive the wallet address and I'll keep it on the screen of the Nano. You see, you can verify it, you can do that, and you can go to approve. And once you hit approve, it disappears from here, and then it's gone. So, and you can regenerate it as many times as you need to, but I like to keep it on the screen of the Nano, and then I'll go here and I'll copy, and then I can go to whatever exchange that I'm currently using, and I can do the withdrawal feature, and I can paste it, and then it's still on the screen. And then after I paste it, then I can verify and make sure that what I just pasted matches what's on the screen. And it's just a little tip just to kind of increase your security when you're copying addresses. Some people might call me a little bit paranoid, and maybe I am, but when you help people every day who deal with these small, relatively low impact type of scams, type of hacks that occur, you know that it is possible, and it's kind of impossible not to get at least a little paranoid. So yeah, so it's just good to have best practices and just to understand kind of what's going on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just approve that. Good to go. All right, cool. That is the full device setup. So now I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to go and check out the live stream and see what the conversation has been about. PJ, huge shout out to PJ. Thank you so much for modding for us. You are an absolute rock star. I can tell you've been answering everybody's questions. Let me just scroll up and take a quick look. Nice, nice. Yep, CryptoSteel is really good. Yeah, yeah, it's resistant against fire, flood. A lot of people would ask why would I want to have it in steel, and it's for those reasons. It's specifically for natural disaster and integrity of the medium that your seed phrase is stored on. It by itself doesn't increase the security. It's not a security upgrade. It is a durability upgrade. It is so in a sense, it is kind of a security upgrade, because if your house burns down and you lose your paper recovery phrase, then that is a flaw in the plan to store it. So in a sense, it is a security upgrade, but it's more just a better way to store it. So definitely look into that. I think it's currently the best way to store recovery phrases that I've found. Ah, cool. Yep. Yep. The BTC address changing every time. Yeah, it looks like PJ linked a really good Help Center article to talk about that. Yeah, but that's basically the UTXO model for Bitcoin, and UTXO stands for unspent transaction output. And so the way it works is you have here. I'm going to go ahead and show you something real quick in Ledger Live. So if you go up here to your Bitcoin account and you click on this little wrench icon, and then it opens up this edit account menu, and you click on this advanced dropdown. It might be kind of hard to see, but you have this. It starts with XPub right here, and it's this big long address. So this is what's known as your XPub address. This is XPub stands for extended public key. So for your Bitcoin account, your extended public key address will always remain the same. It's static. And this is what all the individual UTXO addresses, which is the address that I just generated from the receive. It's derived from this master public key right here. And it can derive an unlimited amount of them. It'll just keep deriving, and it derives the exact same ones every time in the exact same order. So your UTXO address one that I just generated for the receive, will always be linked to this Bitcoin account as the first UTXO address available that can be derived from the XPub. And so for that reason, it's perfectly safe to send funds over and over again to the same UTXO address. Like for instance, if you have an address whitelisted with an exchange, I think Crypto.com is one that you have to whitelist addresses before you can withdraw funds. It's perfectly okay to just continue to send to the same UTXO address. It'll all land in your Bitcoin account. However, doing that will put all of your individual transactions, your incoming transactions, into one common address. And so this will make it very easy for someone who's analyzing blockchain transactions to link that one UTXO address to your identity through, like indirect means. Like it's not easy to do, but there are services out there that can do things like this. And so UTXOs give you much more anonymity on the blockchain, to where you can send to a different UTXO address each time and have these little small bits of Bitcoin inside these individual wallet addresses. And from the outside looking in, it becomes incredibly difficult to determine whether these UTXO addresses all belong to the same XPub or if it's different users. It just kind of scatters your funds across all these different addresses and makes it much more anonymous on the blockchain. So one potential downside to that is the more UTXO addresses you have, the more expensive it's going to be to transact on the Bitcoin network. Let's say you have a full Bitcoin and you have like 0.1 Bitcoin and 10 different addresses. When you go to and you want to send that entire Bitcoin out, it's going to have to compile the in the transaction data, the data from all 10 of those different UTXO addresses. And that's going to take up more space in the Bitcoin block. And so the miners are going to charge you more fees to do that, because whenever it comes to fees on Bitcoin, it's always about the block space. So I'm going off on a huge tangent on Bitcoin, but yeah, but I wanted to hit that because it is kind of a confusing thing for new users to kind of wrap their heads around. But one cool analogy that I like to use is if you go to a grocery store and let's say you go to a bank and you withdraw $100 and they give you $100 bill and you put that into your wallet, and now you have a single $100 bill in your wallet or a single UTXO address in your wallet. So then you can go to a grocery store, you can buy soda, candy bar, whatever, and you hand it to the cashier. You hand the full $100 bill to the cashier, and then the cashier then gives you change. And so that's why UTXO addresses are also called change addresses, because when you send Bitcoin, you send the entire contents of the UTXO. Whether you're sending a very tiny amount or a large amount, it all gets sent, and then the rest gets redeposited back into your Bitcoin account, into your next UTXO address, your change address. Yep. Digital cash. Okay. If we have any other questions, I can kind of hone in on. Mm-hmm. Yep. PJ said it really well. Yep. The question about recovery phrases being generated on your device and not being selected by the user. And that could be a little, alarming for new users, but I'm going to share another link with you. I'm going to share with you the BIP 39 word list. Here. Do it from Blockplate. This is a good one. So this right here, that right there is the complete BIP 39 word list that I just dropped in the comments at the bottom of the chat. You can go to that. You can see all 2048 possible words that can make up all recovery phrases. And so when you generate it on your Nano has this list of words, and it knows and it has a high degree of randomness, and it just randomly generates 24 words from this for the user. And the reason that it's not feasible to allow users to select their own words, even if they're, accurately selecting words from the BIP 39 word list, is that not all combinations can create a seed phrase. For instance, the last one, the 24th word, it acts as a checksum to verify the previous 23 words. And there's only a certain number of words that can be the 24th word, for instance. And then this also occurs at certain intervals within the 24 words as well. So it is best to just let the device generate it randomly, but there are ways that you can come up with your own recovery phrase if you want. Although arguably this introduces possible security issues into it, because you would have to use a website to do that. Cool. All right, let me scroll all the way to the bottom. Yeah, PJ, he's just been absolutely killing it. He's excellent technician. Let's see. Cool. Yeah, I think we're pretty much at the end. I think I'm gonna probably call it since it looks like PJ answered all the questions and it is Friday. And yeah, maybe give back 15 minutes to myself and to you guys. Now, before I take off, though, here, let me switch. Before I take off, I want to let you guys know that we are currently building out a new YouTube schedule. We don't have anything fully set in stone yet. However, myself and one of my co-hosts, Ty, we have been doing a couple videos. We did a deep dive into the XRP blockchain and the XRP ledger, my bad. And we also did a deep dive into Bitcoin so far. So one of the plans for this is to keep doing these blockchain specific deep dives to show users kind of to go into those more of those like technical details specific to each blockchain, to talk about potential scams that can affect specific blockchains, because each blockchain, based on how it's built and what the architecture of it is, will introduce new attack vectors. Like for instance, on XRP, there is a feature of the network where you can set up a regular key where you can actually you can actually authorize a totally different public wallet address to sign transactions from your account. And if you set that up, then that would give that other wallet address full access to extract all the funds. And so a common scam, for instance, for that would be, you go to a fake website, a scam website, and they're like, hey, yeah, come stake your XRP. And of course, XRP is not a proof of stake network, so you can't stake it for yield. But a lot of people don't know that, especially if they're getting right into crypto. They hear these words stake and yield and DeFi and all these things, and they just assume it's legitimate. However, this particular scam, we don't see it a lot anymore, but it was really common for a long time, where they would just tell the user, oh yeah, you're just signing a transaction to stake your XRP and you're going to earn some yield on it. But in reality, they are setting a regular key and they're giving that scammer permission to withdraw their funds. And so that would be one example specifically for the XRP blockchain that we kind of go into more detail in those streams. So if you are interested in content like that, where you can learn a little bit more about how these blockchains operate and the specific things to look out for, definitely check out the 2 streams that we already did on our YouTube channel. And make sure to tune in for future streams. And then we also have some other plans, but it's not quite hashed out yet, so I'm going to hold off on making any official announcements. But yeah, so if you like the content that we've been putting out, and if you enjoy it, if it's beneficial for you, if it's helping you understand things better, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you can get notified of all future content. And it'll really help us kind of spread the word on this stuff and get good information out there, because it can be hard to find good information. And so we're trying to be a conduit for that. But yeah, that's all I got. I hope you guys have a lovely weekend, and I hope you had a lovely week as well. And we will see you next week for our live streams. Stay safe, everybody.